Welcome back. We are here at the Unapologetic Podcast. I'm Brandt Merritt.
I'm Jonathon Woodyard.
I'm going to lean back, get out of your way.
There you go.
So people can see you on camera. I don't want to keep blocking you.
Yeah.
We've got a fun guest with us today, Mr. Jacob Banks, Director of Residence Life for SBU. We're going to talk some things about Res Life, about discipleship planning for next fall, but then even, I think, a fun way to start off, both of you guys, Jacob and Jonathon, to break the ice, are leading mission trips this summer. We just had our commissioning chapel Monday. Today's Wednesday. Monday this week, and sort of prayed over all the teams that are going, and love just to give you guys both a chance to talk through that. And Jacob, anything you want to just say?
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to be here. I'm an avid listener of the Unapologetic Podcast, so happy to be able to make my debut. Going to New York City. So we'll do a domestic mission trip through the CGC this year. We've got 7 students and then myself going. So I'll be co-leading with a student named Jared Gaskins. And then we've got 3 other guys and 3 other girls, or 2 other guys, 3 other girls that are going with us to New York City. So we'll be in the Bronx, serving with a ministry, doing street evangelism, homeless outreach, service projects in local schools. And then the church does an after school program with middle school and high school age kids. And so we'll kind of be doing the same flow of structure each day. We'll have morning times where the church there serves coffee and does outreach for the homeless community around their neighborhood. So we have an opportunity to share the gospel in those moments. And then service projects during the day and after school program, obviously after school into the evening time. So yeah, really excited. It'll be my first trip domestically. I actually started when I was 15.
You've been on trips, but you haven't done one in the States yet.
So my sister's a full-time missionary in Kenya. And so, yeah, my first missions experience was internationally. And then, this is my first time getting to lead or go, on a trip domestically. I kind of started backwards, I think, for most people's experiences. But so this will be the closest to home I've ever been for a mission trip. But really excited to get to lead and see those students get to experience that type of environment. First time in New York City, so that'll be interesting as well. Yeah,
New York is fascinating, so big, and so much need for the gospel. So excited that we get to send some students there and send Jacob there and seeing what the Lord does. It's exciting.
You're heading off to Asia.
Yeah, so I won't mention the country, but where we're going is, I guess, I was going to say north of another country, but they would give it away. So anyway, Asian country around that area, Southeast Asia. Really not even South, East Asia, whatever.
East Asia.
Just Asia is fine. But taking a small group, and then we're actually meet up with another group of people coming from the Colorado area, going through this one particular organization called the Glory Project. We actually traveled with them to Thailand. The 2 I went to Thailand with last year, and the 2 I went to New Delhi with back in February or whenever I went to New Delhi, maybe March. But so I've traveled with them before, really love what they do. So we're going to go to this particular country and do several different things where we will go to some villages, engage in a Bible school. I'm going to do some lecturing, some teaching at a Bible school one day, incorporate some of our students in some of the content that I'm going to deliver there. And then they also, wherever we go in these kind of pockets in these villages, anywhere between 50 and 100 kids that they'll have time to spend with, do some crafts with, try to share the gospel in some creative ways. So doing that, moving around, meeting with believers. So in this particular country we're going to, it's actually illegal to share the gospel and try to convert people. And so a lot of what we're going to be doing is trying to strengthen the church that's already there and encourage believers. So we'll get to do that in a lot of different places. Also going to do we have a couple of nurses that are going with us, try to do some medical type missions, evaluations in some of these smaller places. So we get to do some of that. Then we're actually, one of the days I'm leading a pastors conference for 100 or 150 or so pastors, maybe their wives. And so getting an opportunity to do some teaching there, some encouragement to them. Our students, again, I'm going to incorporate in some hopefully creative ways where they can engage some of these pastors' wives. And so really strengthening the church, sharing the gospel, being able to pray with people, encouraging them as they try to follow Jesus in a country that historically has not been super open to the faith. So looking forward to it. Looking forward to, I think, everybody that's going with me. One of the people that's going with me traveled with me last year to Thailand. I think the 2 that are going with me this year will be kind of the first time for them in that type of environment. And so it should be an eye-opening experience for sure.
So my wife, Christy, asked me this when I mentioned your trip. I mean, something about you in Asia. I mean, what's the Asia?
Oh,
You've been there so many times.
So many times.
Yes.
Like 3 times in the last year almost.
Three times in the
including this
last
one.
year.
Yeah.
Over the years, I don't know how many times, but I know the first mission trip I ever went on, Gina and I were actually dating at the time, and we were part of a college ministry in Kentucky. And we had a missions pastor. He's passed away. He's with the Lord. But he just had a heart for the nations, and he infused that into a group of college students where we just thought this is normal. This is just what you do. You go on mission trips, you take the gospel, and you go to hard places. You just go to wherever God opens a door to go. And so with that guy, my first trip, and Gina was on that trip. We were dating at the time. We ended up in Malaysia, in the highlands of Malaysia. I remember being relatively new believer, dating Gina at the time. So this is 21, 22 years ago. We weren't married yet. Sitting in the village with the tribal leader sharing the gospel, having no idea really, like they could kill you for this, right? But I didn't care. I'm 21, 22 years old. I'm like, this is just what you do.
New believer, bold Jonathon, knowing this Jonathon, I can only imagine just go all in.
Yeah, we were all in, and so that was. This is just what you did. That's how I cut my teeth. I had read John Piper, "Let the nations be glad." Don't waste your life. To live as Christ, die as gain. Right? I'd read the Apostle Paul, and that hit. So Southeast Asia was where it started, and then for some reason, because I don't particularly like Asian food or just anyway, just that's not where I'd pick to go on vacation. But here I am in Malaysia, then I'm in Indonesia, then I'm in Vietnam, and then I'm in Singapore, and then I'm in Myanmar, and now I've been to Thailand twice, and now I'm going, and then I was in New Delhi, and now I'm back and I don't know why. I don't know, just in God's providence, those are the opportunities that keep being. I keep saying I want to go on a mission trip elsewhere. I have been on a trip to Paris, France. And interestingly enough, that was the hardest trip I've ever been on. And I think spiritual warfare, really, because the whole team, we were exhausted the whole time we were there. We couldn't get over jet lag, and it just was tough. Gina was with me on that trip, but we were married at that time. I got in trouble because I didn't hold her hand or give her a kiss on the top of the Eiffel Tower. But she's like, we're in Paris on the Eiffel Tower, and we weren't romantic. And I'm like, so I failed their spiritual warfare in Paris, France. But yeah. So anyway, I keep going back. I don't know why. God's providence. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
Good story. So we're going to dive into some things we've mentioned on the podcast in the past of changes that are happening within discipleship and restructuring some of Res Life and how that's going to benefit students next fall. But before we even get into that, we'd love Jacob to get a little bit of a chance for you to talk through what got you to SBU and even to where you are currently. What's the elevator pitch for Jacob at SBU?
Yeah, I mean, SBU, I feel like a lot of students would probably echo this, but yeah, SBU pretty much changed my life. I didn't want to come to SBU. I was committed and deposited to a different school in April of my senior year of high school. And Nikki Harmon still works here. Nikki Harmon was my admissions counselor at that time, and she called me a lot. And so thank you, Nikki, for calling me and not giving up on me. Because I finally answered the phone one day, and she said, well, let me just send me your FAFSA. Let's see what kind of financial information we can get for you. And they sent it back, and it was very lucrative, and I was given a lot of aid and a lot of assistance to be able to come here, and it became a possible reality that it honestly might even be financially more feasible for me to come here than the school I was initially going to go to. And so the Lord in his providence provided Nikki Harmon for me, and then that led me down the admissions path, and yeah, she led me the entire way. I got here, was studying sciences, was in Calculus 1 with Dr. Bowling for about a week and a half. And then the Lord, again, providentially changed my career path after about a week and a half with Dr. Bowling. I love Dr. Bowling, but calculus wasn't for me. So, moved over to the Redford building and ended up finishing my degree in discipleship ministry. Was still in the Bolivar area for about a year and a half after I graduated in 2020, and got an opportunity to come back and work in Res Life down in Woodyard Hall here. Have not looked back. So my experience here at SBU, I met my wife here. I met 4 of the 5 guys that were in my wedding here. They lived down the hall from me in my residence hall. My resident director in Memorial Hall was one of the greatest male mentors in my life. I saw his job and I said, that looks like the best job I could ever possibly have. And that's what made me want to keep doing it. So when I got the opportunity to be here again and do that job again, I had to jump at it. And so, in his providence, God has allowed me to have more leadership opportunities. So now I get to serve as the director, get to see RDs develop, because normally RDs are young professionals, young 20s, usually freshly graduated from their undergrad degrees, maybe pursuing a master's degree. And so, I get to see them develop, see them fall in love with student affairs. I didn't really know I would be in student affairs for a career, but I know that that's what the Lord has gifted me in, and I'm passionate about it. And so that's a unique and way that the Lord has cared for me, as he's provided a clear calling for my life. And so I love getting to share that calling that is somewhat unique. I think not everybody knows they have a calling to work with college students, especially in a university setting. I think a lot of people think of college ministry within a church, but we are still, I know Jonathon said that a lot. He pastored churches for 15, 20 years, and people said, oh, you're kind of stepping away from the ministry. And you're like, no, I'm not. It's just going to look a little different. I'm going to be at a higher education institution. I'm not going to be maybe within a church building, but I'm still doing the Lord's work, still doing ministry with these students. So that's what I get the opportunity to do every day. It's a little different now being the director. I'm in the office a lot more. I don't get to play ping pong nearly as much, but I love what I do, and I love getting to see my coworkers fall deeper in love with what they do and with the residents here for sure.
That's good. So you've always then seen, as you're sort of telling that story, Res Life as discipleship.
Absolutely.
In a sense for you, seeing what your ID was for you, it wasn't just make sure the dorms are operating right, make sure people are following the rules, make sure that community is being built. It was a specific kind of community, a specific kind of mentoring. It was real Christian discipleship happening. So that's always kind of been your take on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like for example, I didn't think too much about discipleship from a corrective type of stance. I didn't think about the discipline accountability that sometimes happens when I was 18. I thought of discipleship really as just, growing in biblical maturation, biblical literacy, trying to learn as much as I could rather than just the practical side of confession of sin and being held accountable for your actions and things like that. That was, naive 17, 18-year-old me coming into college. And that guy, his name was Garrick Allen, who's the resident director for me. I saw him correctively discipline students in a difficult environment in a way that I found very unique. And as then led me, whenever I was resident director in Woodyard, that was how I did things. I was like, man, what would Garrick do in this situation? And so, he taught me immensely about what it means to love someone so much that you want to discipline them because you want to see change in their life, ultimately towards the way that the scripture teaches for us to live our lives. So, for example, we have, obviously, it's similar to a ton of higher education institutions. If you have a penalty, we can't ground you. We're not your mom. We're not your dad. So we usually try to motivate you in other ways, usually through financial compensation, through fines, things like that. But we don't want to do that. If I didn't have to give somebody a fine, I would love to not do that. So Garrick would have people go on walks because he said, what's going to make you most uncomfortable? And it's probably just going to be to hang out with me for an hour or two every week. And so he would have guys that were difficult, had problems consistently. And he would say, okay, if you want to continue being here, you're going to have to go on a walk with me every Tuesday at 8 a.m. We're going to go walk and we're going to have a mile and a half and you're just going to be stuck with me. You're going to be forced to talk to me. And so I just saw discipleship happen in a way that I'd never seen it before, in a way that he cared about those people. He wanted to hold them accountable to their actions. But it wasn't simply, discipleship didn't have to just simply be about knowledge, but about your heart posture towards another person. And so, discipleship and Res Life have been pretty much synonymous for me ever sinse I came here when I was 18.
How many walks did you have to go on?
I only went on 2, but he was very gracious. He was very gracious with me.
Yeah.
Well, you so leading into the discipleship format that you guys have been working on for next fall, maybe Jonathon, do you want to start? Kind of what's the vision for it? What's leading to some of the changes, and just love to kind of let you guys share how.
Yeah, there's a lot behind it. I mean, SBU, higher education is always changing, and I feel like we've talked about this in the office quite a bit. I feel like since I've gotten here, we've had to make changes here or there every semester, and that's just kind of the life of higher ed in some sense, and the life of SBU right now, where we're just kind of right size of the ship. We're trying to create some structures that fit who SBU is in 2025 instead of 2011 or 2012. So it just means we've had to do a lot of evaluation, a lot of thinking over the past 2 years since I've been here to think through what does not just residence life, but all of student life. What do we look like in safety and security? What do we look like in University Activities Council? What do we look like in intramurals? Where does that fit? So there's been a lot of those things that I've been thinking through, that Jacob's been helping me think through, and Res Life has been part of that. But what does it look like for SBU today? And big changes when Stedman, our campus pastor, today was his last chapel. We commissioned him, sent him out, had a going away for him. But when he steps away, really what precipitated some of the big changes that we're experiencing now in terms of the structure, partly is because Stedman's walking away, and if you put his job in two buckets, the discipleship piece is really going to fall more towards us, and we've decided lands most or the best in residence life. So if you take Stedman's job and think two buckets, chapel's a big piece of it. I'll pick that up most directly. Stedman was reporting to me, but I'll kind of step in and lead those chapel efforts most directly. But when we think about the other discipleship pieces and what we want to see in terms of people maturing in Christ, being engaged with the gospel, residence life really felt like that's the place. And if we think residence life only as people who live on the campus, we're maybe not talking about it exactly in the way that we've started to think about it. Residence life is residential Bolivar student. Like, you're here on this campus. There's dorm life that's a part of that, but also the discipleship piece. We're trying to create a culture of discipleship. And this goes back to something we've talked about so often. At SBU, we are not merely concerned or interested in granting degrees, right? We want to shape certain types of people. We talk about that in our mission statement. We're preparing servant leaders that make a Christ-exalting impact in a global society. And so we want to shape people holistically. That doesn't simply happen in the classroom. It happens in all your co-curriculars as well, the things that come alongside of your classroom experience. So with that idea, we want to shape people. Stedman's stepping away. That's kind of been leading that D group effort. We started to really think about where that fit, res life, but then also what did that look like? It's not just D groups. There's other things that are part of it. So I'll let Jacob speak to the particular changes, but what's behind it all and underneath of the changes that he'll talk about in terms of structure is the desire to continue to build a culture of discipleship, to continue to holistically shape our students into the image of Christ for the glory of Christ and the good of the world. So that's underneath everything. And again, that discipleship focus we think will best land in that residence life world, which has caused us now to make some structural changes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the way that the residence life structure kind of currently works and is pretty similar in at a lot of institutions our size is we have resident assistants who are student leaders that serve in the halls, serving the needs, maintenance needs, spiritual needs of the residents in their given hall. We've got about 24 throughout campus. And then right now we have 3 resident directors who are full-time professional paid staff employees. And we have 2 assistant resident directors who are essentially like a senior RA, someone that has res life experience and could step in and kind of fulfill a role similar to an RD, but in maybe a smaller space, a few less residents. And then it's me. And so that's our team. Because of this kind of matriculation of discipleship in a more organized manner, kind of falling into residence life, it gave us an opportunity to kind of shift to a little bit of a different system that I think ultimately will help our team, Jonathon, myself, Taylor Worley, Christina, and our team in student life help develop a discipleship master plan that can then be executed more efficiently. And so we're moving away from the resident director piece specifically. So instead of 3 resident directors, we're going to have 2 assistant resident directors, 2 assistant directors of residence life. So I'm the director of residence life. We'll have 2 associates, a male and a female. The male will oversee now there will be 5 assistant resident directors. So instead of 3 resident directors and 2 assistants, we'll have 5 assistant resident directors, and those people will live in an apartment space in the dorms, handle a lot of the day-to-day face-to-face interaction with students. They'll kind of be our frontline, boots on the ground type of people. A lot of those could be grad students, like I said, or those kind of senior level RAs that we trust to be able to step into a more advanced leadership position.
Some of them may be married.
Some of them may be married, living in those spaces. It was interesting doing housing applications. David Reefer is going to be our assistant resident director in Landon, and his soon-to-be wife is named Krista. And so I was scrolling through Landon's list, and we have them labeled by gender. So males are blue and females are pink. And I was scrolling through and a pink popped up and I'm like, oh, whoa, disoriented. And I looked at it, I was like, oh, it's Krista. Okay, great. Yeah. So it's good.
They will be married.
They will be married
in the future.
They do not live there currently.
As long as I show up, they will.
That's right.
Because I'm doing the work.
And so that's going to be the structure moving forward. Myself as the director, 2 associates, a male and a female, 5 assistant resident directors, and then RAs beneath them. So the associates, though, will not only simply oversee their specific gendered assistant resident directors. So our male associate will oversee the 3 male assistant resident directors, but he will also now oversee our male D group leaders as well. So that's something that Stedman has been really intentional about developing the D group members into leaders and ultimately moving up into upper leadership within D groups. And so that group of leaders that are leading their own D group of 3 to 4 regular students are the males will also report to this person for discipleship, accountability, for check-ins. How are things going? Are everything in the groups going okay? Is there anybody that's kind of lagging behind? Those types of things. And so they will kind of have their hand in res life in terms of keeping up with the day-to-day maintenance needs of the facilities, but they will also have a hand to play in the execution of that discipleship master plan that we're trying to develop through D groups and other discipleship opportunities as well. I've come to find, and I actually was talking with Evan Reindl, he's going to be the RA in Meyer next year. So he and Brady Brown, who's going to be the assistant resident director in Meyer, have already been talking about like what is discipleship going to look like in our space, because they know that this model's coming. They know that we're hiring 2 associates. And so they're excited to get the ground moving on that. And they came into my office, Evan did, and he said, hey, I just kind of had some questions and thoughts about what discipleship could look like in the dorms, because he is in a D group, and, how can those things talk well together? And I said, I already love where your head's at, because I feel like at times, Res Life, our RAs have been wanting to do discipleship and be intentional about that.
That's an important, you need to double click on that.
Yeah.
It's an important thing to say. This is not the first time Residence Life has thought about discipleship. So it may look different, but this has been, I think this talking and working more closely together is one of the things we're excited about.
Absolutely. Yeah, RAs are already having incredibly deep conversations, guiding, mentoring students, whether they're in a D group or not.
Absolutely. Right. Yeah. And so I would find that with D groups, which have been growing and is highly committal in nature, there would sometimes be almost a competition in terms of times to try to do things together. An RA would maybe plan some sort of event at a certain time, but that's when the D group meets. So that maybe takes away 4 or 5 people that would really probably enjoy that experience, but that's their consistent D group meeting time. And so now what I'm most excited about is to see, again, something that Res Life and I have already had a line of sight on, getting to work so much better with D groups, which has been growing and maturing students in an unbelievable way. I've heard a lot of, Evan was a testimony of just the way that he said that D groups has changed his life, how he approaches accountability. And so I'm most excited to see those things start to talk and work together in a really curricular way.
Yeah, I think the D group piece is massive. Stedman has done such a good job of leading D groups. We've seen them go from, and he even mentioned this today, 16 people to 60 people to 110 at the start of this year. So we've seen those grow, and we don't want to lose any momentum there. But we also want to think more broadly about what a culture of discipleship looks like on campus. And so we've done things like the alteration is a women's ministry or a women's conference that we have here that Christina and Kristen and Natasha and so many others have been involved in the past. But there's not really been something like that for our men, our guys. So trying to create something that complements that going forward. Thinking about conferences, taking students to, say, CrossCon in Louisville every year, making a big experience, putting them in front of a good preaching, great worship, other college students that love Jesus, dorm Bible studies being part of that. What does that look like more than just D groups, but discipleship on campus is bigger than just that. So to see Res Life step into that world and kind of own it, not just for residents in terms of people living in a dorm, but for this campus as a whole, seems like something that could really work well. And to say this for any listener who's thinking about, well, isn't that the job of the church? We are very much thinking through how do we come alongside churches in Bolivar, not to get in the way of what they're doing, but to point students to the primary place of discipleship should be in your local congregation. That's what you're going to have when you leave here. You're not going to have this structure. So we want to get you involved in those churches. And so how do we partner with local churches to make sure kids our students are plugging into those places? So super excited about what's going to happen. We're actually getting away tomorrow as a staff, as a student life team, to think through some of these things and kind of land the plane on what our plan is going forward so that we're ready to communicate that in August.
So one of the, if I'm remembering this right, kind of the undergirding thing you've spent a lot of time with are what are the marks of a disciple that we want to see with students?
Yeah.
Can I put you on the spot for the?
You're going to put me on the spot to name all 8 of them.
8 of them. So there's 8 marks of a disciple. All that to say, you've spent a lot of time.
We stopped short of 9 marks because that was already
there's already 9.
Already
our
website.
Copyright issues with our CHBC friends, right? But yeah, it's not just we want to see biblical discipleship. There's an intentional process you've gone through to identify specific things, even if you just mentioned a couple of them that you're going to be trying to lean into.
Sure. Jacob's probably over there looking them all up right now and trying to commit them to memory. It's funny how it's hard to memorize 8 things on the spot.
I know several of them.
So I'll see what I can see what I can get here. But start on that document. So I wrote a document with Stedman when I first got here to think through, we're saying discipleship. We want to shape people. Well, you have to put some definition on that, right? So what are the outcomes? What are the virtues or the theological marks of somebody who we think is, I don't say mature in Christ because you're never mature. You're always maturing. So what are the marks of somebody who's maturing in Christ? And I would say it starts with the gospel. So engage with the gospel. Before you can disciple people, they need to be disciples, right? So you got to get people to come to faith in Christ. So every student should be engaged with the gospel of Jesus Christ. You step on this campus, you should not be able to go here for any long amount of time without hearing the good news or reading the good news on a wall or seeing it on a screen or hearing it from a stage or hearing it in a conversation with an RA or whatever the case may be. Every student needs to hear and be engaged with the gospel. We can't force people to believe it, but we can certainly do everything within our power to make sure they hear it. So every student engaged with the gospel, but then you believe in Jesus. That's number one. And that's not one of the 8.
It's not one of the 8.
But I guess we do have 9 things. But anyway, so you hear the gospel. But then once you believe in Christ, you should be growing in your faith. This is something that Christians call progressive sanctification, right? You should be growing progressively into the image of Christ. Paul is laboring and toiling in Colossians 1:28 to present people mature in Christ on the final day. So we want to do that work. And so that would mean be people that are Bible saturated, so they're reading their Bible, people that are joyful, joy-filled, people that are mission-oriented, they're focused on living the mission, they're local church committed, they're humble, they're not prideful, right? They are peacemakers, right? So they're not at war with everybody around them. So that's 6. And I know there's 2 more. Prayerful. So people who are praying, I think a mark of a believer is somebody who spends a lot of time talking to their God and their Savior. And then there's one more.
It's very SBU.
It's very SBU. Servant leader. So we want people to be servant leaders, right? So we want people to live out Philippians 2. Think not only of your own interest, but also look out for the interest of others. Live this others-oriented life. So those are the types of things that we want to mark people. And so through our efforts, those become, and Jacob's been helpful pointing out in terms of curriculum, those become outcomes. That's what we're aiming at. And then we need to think strategically, tactically, how do we get there? Mm-hmm. So that's the vision, that's the outcome, that's the type of person that we want to shape. And now we need to spend a lot of time thinking about how we do it.
Yeah. And we've got students, servant leaders right now. I keep thinking about Evan. Like Evan went out of his own way to email me and say, hey, I'm excited about this and I'm ready to hit the ground running on it. And so that's encouraging for me to even know that if you do it in terms of a flow, the bottom of the structure, at the RA level, we love our RAs and we want to show the value of them. But even at that level, they're excited about these possible outcomes and they want to be a part of that plan. And so I'm excited that the students that we have in place, the students that we have here, already presenting some of those things. And he's also a part of D groups. So he's also, you can see the fruit of that, that the D groups have been presenting these students and maturing them in such a way that now they're excited to disciple others. It's the idea of the multiplication process. And the work is a lot easier when you have more laborers to help you. And so if we're all doing it together, I think that's going to be, I think Proverbs talks about look to the ants, right? Yeah. And so I think that's very applicable for the way that we're hoping to do this together, is that we're doing it as a team. It's not just Jonathon. It's not just me. It's not just one given individual or even a small group of people, but it's a whole, honestly, down to the whole campus. All of our faculty and staff, I think, are geared towards that idea. So
they should be. That's what we're hoping for. Yeah. We want a team that's all pulling in that direction.
Well, and that's sort of, again, the vision. It should be all of us. Yeah. And I put myself in the group too. How can people in my position or just staff members who aren't custodians all the way to coaches and everyone else be part of this whole thing. So it's awesome you guys are thinking through that piece. Yeah. So I know we'll spend a lot of time probably in the fall unpacking how that's going and getting some more updates, but thank you guys for just the work you've done and then the work to come. It's going to be pretty exciting. We'll shift to a little more discipleship is fun.
It's fun.
Discipleship is fun, but
more of the activities
type of competitive. Discipleship.
Yeah.
More competitive. So Jacob, how is Bearcat Cup going?
Yeah.
What is it? Bearcat Cup?
So the Bearcat Cup, is essentially a year-long. It's a full annual competition, dorm v. dorm. So here at SBU, we have brother-sister dorms that compete together in a lot of our events. And so the Bearcat Cup is essentially a culmination of several events throughout the year, geared towards a giant, it's like 5.5 foot tall trophy, Bearcat Cup, that we award to a given brother-sister dorm at the end of each year. We also get to hang their propaganda in the union. So in our main student union, the main hub, we have banners that are hung up there for the
SBU approved propaganda.
Of course,
Oh,
yes.
100%.
You know,
Yeah,
not
yeah,
random
yes.
propaganda.
Of course, no. Approved lettering and fonts and whatnot. And so, yeah, we have that hung up on the above the fireplace mantle in the union for the entire duration of the year. So Woodyard Hall in my last year won last year, which was awesome, very exciting. And it hangs up above the mantle, and we have the reveal for the winner coming up next Tuesday. And so that it might be changing. I actually know the results. We calculated them. I will not be saying that here, but
Right, because this will come out.
Yeah,
When will
this
this
will
be
come out.
posted?
It's probably this week, actually.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
so-
don't say it.
Yeah,
Don't
so
say it.
you'll have to come out, and for the listeners, you have to come out to the union Tuesday night, a little after 7:30.
And there's Chick-fil-A that'll be there.
There will be Chick-fil-A, and the winner will be revealed again. Very excited to get to announce that. It's always a lot of fun. Students are around this time are always very antsy and excited to see what their labors have produced. So there's a lot of things that go into that. Obviously, we have homecoming week, which is huge in the fall. So in the spring, we try to kind of encapsulate something similar to that. I think you guys maybe have mentioned the battle before. I think I was hearing about some ailments in a previous episode. I know Jonathon's foot's kind of down for the count. But you guys are both very involved in the battle. Bring your families, which is awesome. It seems like they have a lot of fun. Golf cart, yep. And so, yeah, we do that in the spring. We also have the Dorm Olympics, which is a week-long competition of dorms competing against each other, kind of all providing points towards the Bearcat Cup as a whole throughout the given school year. So we also track service hours. So the dorm that produces the most service hours in a given year earns a select amount of points. And so we also, again, want to work towards, that's one of our goals, is to produce servant leaders. So we want to encourage service.
SBU Giving Day was part of it. It's kind
Yep.
of that little piece of
Yep.
how many people can they get around supporting their dorm, which is neat.
Yeah, and Beasley and Meyer kind of blew the competition out of the water. Or no, it was Landon Leslie blew the competition out of the water that given day. They had the most individual donors and the most dollars earned on behalf of their dorm's name. So yeah,
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, we will keep an eye out for that.
Show up Tuesday night.
Tuesday night,
yeah.
Bring your families, bring your kids, bring yourself.
Sure,
wear your
will there be
SBU
live
gear.
coverage on UAC or?
I think we are going to try to do some live coverage there as well.
Follow the SBU UAC.
That's right.
Instagram page for
Mhm.
live updates.
Yeah.
Potentially on Tuesday night.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
That's fun.
Well, good stuff. Well, Jacob, thanks for all the work you're doing. We're
Yeah.
obviously super thankful that the Lord brought you here and all the different things you've been involved in, and excited for next year with discipleship.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Excited to see how it goes. Got a great lineup in Chapel's a big piece of that, right? And so we're excited to see all the people we have coming for Chapel.
Yeah.
Just a lot of good stuff, I think, coming down the pipe.
And
Yeah.
finals are next week. I mean,
Finals are next week.
Semester is here.
Yes.
It kind of snuck up on me, I feel like.
Yeah,
But
I teach one more class tomorrow, and then that's it.
Yeah.
And then Friday's here. And students are spending the weekend, I would imagine, studying.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
keep poking a couple of them around today, like, how you feeling ready for finals? And
Yeah.
I'm not getting a lot of incredibly confident.
They're
So
like,
Not yet, they
I think there's
will.
still a lot of cramming happening,
Yeah.
which that is what it is.
yeah, it's part of it.
Late night breakfast on Monday. We'll get to serve.
Late
Yep.
night breakfast. Yeah,
Breakfast
that's
for
good.
students.
So show up late night breakfast. We'll give you some breakfast
Yep.
at 9 o'clock
a lot
at
of food
night.
stuff during finals.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
it's
well,
fun.
people like
We
to
usually
eat.
do a petting zoo day. That's either Wednesday or Thursday. I don't know what day it is this year, but we'll bring in some dogs and things like that. So it's a lot of fun. If I can just say one more thing, just
Yeah.
as a final encouragement, hopefully to you guys, but also to anybody that's listening that's a student or a prospective student or past student, or, we're talking about Chapel and the lineup of speakers that are coming through. I got to have a conversation with Tammy Melson today at Stedman's reception. Just talking about how I'm excited for the associates, excited for the future, and excited for those people to be in those seats and to be helping us execute this discipleship plan. And it just made me reflect on one of the associates that's coming in. His name's Luke Stockton. He's our male associate. Allie Weaver is going to be our female associate. She's a student currently, so I'm excited to have her in that
Graduates
seat.
in December.
Graduates in December. Yep. So excited to have her in that seat. She's going to do a great job. She has been through D group since the beginning, been an RA for us, currently is an RA for us. And so excited for that. But Luke and I were students here together at a time when Chapel was very different. And discipleship, honestly, was just not happening nearly in the effective way that it is currently happening for our students now. And so I hope that that's a part that you said, discipleship is fun. We were talking about Bearcat Cup things, but like that's something that I'm really excited about, is that students are gaining a major benefit of the experience that I think they get to have through chapel, through D groups, through after darks, through the women's conference. The alteration's been happening since I was a student, but I'm not a woman, so I've never been to it. But it's been happening for a long time. And I think that the things that are happening are developing, and in God's providence, he has put people in place. Like I'm thinking about you guys specifically and the rest of our leadership team to be able to fulfill a good thing. And he's really provided for SBU. Just being a student, 7-8 years ago, working here, seeing changes, I think that SBU is on an amazing trajectory. And in terms of the discipleship piece, the spiritual maturation of our students, and honestly of myself as well. I think that's because I benefit from chapel. It's not simply students that benefit from the chapel experience. And so all of that is just a really good thing. And I'm excited to see how future students continue to be developed by that. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. Excited to be part of it.
That's a great place to leave it.
Yeah.
Jacob, thank you.
Of course. Thank you guys.
Be back next week and recap finals week and some other stuff, and get ready.
And then
for the
we've got to
summer.
figure out what we're going to do in the summer.
We'll figure out what we're going to do.
I know
in
we've
the
got
summer.
an SBC episode while we're at the Southern Baptist Convention, but outside of that, I don't know.
It'll be a little more scattered.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you all for listening. We'll be back next time.